Most people don't need a diagnosis, but for insurance purposes, they will be required to receive one. And that diagnosis can stick with them and stay with them for the rest of their lives. So now I have a moral and ethical conundrum that I have to manage and deal with. Do I want to give someone a diagnosis just so I can get reimbursed by insurance? Nobody really tells you this when you're in grad school, but becoming a therapist is more than just listening to people and helping people to heal. There are some really hard truths, and there are also some really beautiful surprises. And there are a few things that I wish someone had really shared with me and warned me about as I was going through grad school. If you're thinking about becoming a therapist, this video is for you. The first thing that I really wish someone had told me as a grad student about becoming a therapist is that school doesn't actually really prepare you to become a clinician and to see real clients. And what I mean by that is in school, and I know this because I went through grad school, but I was also a university professor, most of the courses in school are theory classes. They're going to teach you the theories that you can use to work with people. Things like solution-focused brief therapy, which is what I do. There are things like structural therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy. There are all these different kinds of theories about what you're supposed to do with clients. But one of the things that they don't teach you is that clients are not going to follow the script. Oftentimes when you read things in textbooks or you watch videos of people, the masters who have done therapy for a long time, you kind of get this impression that clients are going to follow a script. You're going to say, what brought you here? And they're going to say, I really want to change. I really want things to be different. And they're going to be motivated and they're going to be compliant with all the things that you ask them. And the reality is that's not usually the case. In addition, in grad school, you're going to spend a lot of time and they're going to teach you how to do a treatment plan. And what this is it's what's the diagnosis or what's wrong with this person? And then what are the steps that you have to go through in order to help them to heal or to manage or to feel better? And the reality is treatment plans aren't that effective because very rarely do clients move linearly through their work. And so sometimes you'll move a few steps forward and sometimes you'll move a few steps back. And it looks like you're being more or less successful or compliant with the treatment plan. But really, what people want to hear is, I'm here walking next to you. I'm compassionate towards you. I'm empathetic towards you. And they don't really care what's on the treatment plan. And I wish somebody had really spent time on how do you really connect meaningfully with people? How do you spend the most meaningful moments that you've got just being compassionate with people? And that makes a really big difference. The other thing that I would say is that they don't teach you in grad school is that the learning doesn't really end. When you graduate from a master's program, you can go on and get a degree and a license and all of those things. You kind of think, okay, I'm finished. But the reality is you aren't. Even though licensure boards usually require you to get some continuing education credits, this isn't just a checkbox. One of the things that I would say is we call clinical work practice. We start private practices or we join a group practice. And the reality is we have to keep practicing. We have to keep engaged and working with people, and we have to talk to our peers, and you have to get really, really good training. And I wish somebody had told me, once you graduate from school, learning isn't over. The second thing I wish someone had told me when I was in grad school is that running a business, being a clinician, is more than just seeing clients. There is a lot of paperwork. There is a lot of interaction with other professionals. There is assessments that you have to do, insurance requirements, a ton of paperwork. We don't really get prepared much for how to manage the business component. One of the things that I wish people had done is they would tell me being a clinician is as much about marketing and advertising as it is about sitting with people in a room. In order to sit with people in a room, they have to know where to find you. They have to know what kind of work you do. They have to be enticed to choose you over a bunch of other people. And I wish people had given me the background on how to do good business. A couple of things that I would share with you about how to do this is to think about the perfect people that you would like to meet with in a therapy room. Do you want to meet with adolescents? Do you want to meet with couples? Do you want to work with adults, only women? Whatever it is, you need to be thinking about, how am I going to get those people to come into my office? If you're choosing to work with couples, one of the things that you're really going to have to think about is, where will couples get a referral to come to therapy? It might be from their pastor. A lot of people come in through their pastors or through their religious leaders because they say, we want to enhance our relationship. If you're working with adolescents, you might need to go see some pediatricians, or you might need to go see some school counselors and say, hey, I'm in this area, I'm doing this work. And I wish somebody had told me, you're as much a business person, you're as much an advertiser, a marketer, as you are a healer. The other thing I wish somebody had told me is, a lot of this work could be tied to insurance. And you're going to have to get really good at advocating for yourself and what you do in order to get insurance to reimburse you for your services. That also means you're going to have to get an assistant probably, or you're going to spend several hours of your week submitting insurance forms and claims. So the billing, the answering the phone, all of those things, you might not be able to do on your own. So this means you might need to increase the number of clients you see in order to pay somebody to answer the phone. Because if you're always in seeing clients back to back to back, you won't have time to answer the phone, or you might miss their call. And if they're looking for a therapist right now, they're going to call somebody else while you're in session. So you might need an administrative assistant. You might need an insurance filer. You might need an assistant to take care of all of these nuts and bolts. You might need a social media specialist. So when you think about being a clinician, one of the things you really want to think about is that a 40-hour work week usually translates to 25 hours of client work. And the other 15 hours is usually talking with other professionals like teachers or doctors or those kinds of things, coordinating care, doing insurance claims, setting up appointments, writing case notes, creating treatment plans, doing insurance. And so you really want to manage your expectations as you get into this. The third thing I wish somebody had told me is that working with insurance companies can be a nightmare. I kind of alluded to this a little bit in the second tip, but one of the things that I think is really important is you have to realize, if you take people's insurance, that automatically means you're going to get less money for the same work you've done. And actually, it might convert into more work because now you have to fill out the forms. Oftentimes, insurance companies will have reviewers to say, did you fill out the form correctly? If you missed anything, they'll send it back and they'll say denied. You'll have to fix it and send it back. Your payment will be delayed. So the payment that you get is smaller. Very likely, it's going to be delayed. So that's something I think that's important that somebody should tell people. The second thing you got to do is you got to realize that if you're going to take insurance, you might undervalue your own work. Oftentimes in a given area, a rate will be set kind of for the clinicians in that area. Insurance companies will never meet that same rate. So a lot of clinicians now are choosing not to take insurance. One of the difficulties about that is that people who really need help may not be able to afford a full rate. And I wish I had known, I wish people had told me there are other ways to compensate. If you can get enough clients to pay your full rate, that means you might be able to have a portion of clients who you see on a sliding fee scale rate, where you reduce your rate, or you might do pro bono work. And so I wish somebody had helped me to realize, you know what? I need to see X number of clients in order to meet my financial needs. And that will leave me this many hours a week to do pro bono work or reduced rate work. And then I won't have to take insurance. The other thing that's really tricky about insurance is that they will require a diagnosis, they'll require a treatment plan, they'll require goals and objectives, which are all fine things if you buy into the necessity. Most people don't need a diagnosis, but for insurance purposes, they will be required to receive one. And that diagnosis can stick with them and stay with them for the rest of their lives. So now I have a moral and ethical conundrum that I have to manage and deal with. Do I want to give someone a diagnosis just so I can get reimbursed by insurance? Or is there another way to do it? And I think that that's one of the things I wish people had walked me through and helped me to think through. The fourth thing that I think is really valuable for graduate students in therapy to realize is that this is often a profession that is undervalued, especially right after you graduate. You'll have a couple of years where you will likely have to work and get additional hours and supervision in order to get a full license. Usually this takes between 2 and 5 years. And in that 2 to 5 years, what nobody really talks about is you're probably not going to get paid very well. Oftentimes you're going to go into a community agency, the pay will be low, or oftentimes now you're going to get into one of these big conglomerate online places. And one of the things that happens is you're going to get a reduced rate. And because you're not fully licensed, they're going to take a bigger chunk of your pay. So one of the things that you need to really think about is, are there things you can do to diversify to increase the pay that you get? Can you do some speaking obligations? Can you become an expert in a content area where people want to know? Can you make some online content that people would be willing to engage in? So oftentimes, as an entry-level person, you're not going to make that much money. That doesn't actually change that much unless you decide, I'm going to be proactive about this. So oftentimes, clinicians are helpers by nature. And that means they feel guilty taking people's money. The biggest factor in undervaluing this profession is us as professionals. We have to be willing to say, this is the amount of money that my time is worth, and we have to make sure that people are willing to pay that much money. So one of the things you're going to have to do in order to become really valuable is value yourself. Become an expert in what you do. Work really hard to help people realize, I am a competent clinician. They're going to have lots of options out there, but you have to help them realize, just because I have a master's degree and just because I have a license doesn't mean I'm like everybody else. I am a content expert, or I am an expert in helping people in this way. And that's one of the things that will help you to avoid burnout. Because this is not a very well compensated profession, sometimes people get burned out because they say, I could go make more money doing something else. You have to value yourself and you have to value the work that you do so that you can charge the amount of money you need to charge. And I wish somebody had helped me realize that really quickly. The final thing I wish somebody had told me as a graduate student is that the system in which we work, it's not really built around a healing process. Again, much of this is driven by insurance companies. Much of this is driven by third-party payers. Much of this is driven by big community agencies who are trying to get as many people through as they can. And what that means is, again, you're going to have to give a diagnosis. This is not about helping people be well. This is about managing symptoms. It's very similar to the medical model that we see around us. If you go in and you get a broken arm, they say, let's fix the broken arm. They don't say, how can we help you prevent getting broken arms in the future? So one of the things that I would say is we as professionals have to decide, am I going to be part of a system that doesn't actually attend to wellness? Or am I going to be a part of a system that does promote well-being? This is an illness-fixing system. Unless we choose to do different. It's easy for clinicians to get overwhelmed by a series of problems, to become burned out because all I hear about is problems. And one of the things I wish that somebody had told me in graduate school is that you can do therapy, but you can do it from a place of well-being, from a place of wellness. That means that you can help people to promote where they would like to go instead of where they're stuck at. One of the things that means is that you are going to have to become an expert at helping people become well, not just stop being anxious or stop being depressed. That's only going to get you to the mid-level. In fact, we have to help people to prevent, to become resilient, to become anti-fragile. And if we can do that, then we can really do good work. I'm going to give you one bonus tip, actually, and this isn't something that was relevant when I was going into grad school because I went to grad school a long time ago. But the landscape has changed. And I think that grad schools need to be really careful about how they help people prepare. Because now there are big conglomerations, big online conglomerations like BetterHelp. I'm not saying anything bad about BetterHelp, but what I am saying is BetterHelp is not run by clinicians. They're run by business people, which is fine. It is a business. But it doesn't always have the best interest of the clinician at heart. If you're thinking, I want to go into private practice, what you have to realize is you're going to be competing with these big corporations that have big marketing money, big celebrity endorsements, and you have to realize I'm going to have to work to set my practice aside or set it apart from these big conglomerate corporations. If you don't, you could easily lose about 40% of your pay because they're going to do all the administrative tasks for you. So become an expert of something. Become really confident in what you do and make sure you do really good marketing, because if you don't, you will very likely have to join one of these big conglomerations, and then you're just working for business people who are trying to get as much money as they can out of you. Learn how to be a good business person so that you can make your own money. Now, I hope those 5 tips were helpful. One thing I want to say is that for me, working from a solution-focused brief therapy perspective has helped me address a lot of these concerns. One, it has helped me become really confident in helping people. 2, it has given me the wherewithal to become an expert in that thing. And I can say to people, if you get therapy in this way, you're going to be helped much quicker and much more effectively than other approaches. 3, it has helped me to have well-being in mind. I don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about problems, and I don't have to spend a lot of time wading through insurance claims and all those kinds of things. I can just get on with the business of helping people. So this has been a really good modality for me, and it has been useful because I buy into it. I can be confident in it. I can make these videos and say, if you want to be a good clinician, this is one modality you can use to become a really good clinician. So I hope that my experience and my tips have been useful to you. But also I'm wondering if you have experienced any other challenges as mental health clinicians or somebody in training to become a mental health clinician. I want to talk to you about it. This is going to be a video series where I take things from the comments and make these additional videos. I've been doing this work for over 20 years at this point, so I'm really hoping that my experience can help you. The other thing that I want to say is you should check out the other videos on this channel, the Solution Focused Universe channel, because it's going to give you more information about solution-focused brief therapy and how you can become an expert in what you do as well. Thanks for watching this video. If you like it, be sure to like and subscribe for more therapy content.